Mike Garcia, a devoted family man, plans the perfect anniversary for his wife, Elena. But over dinner, she makes a shocking proposal that turns his world upside down. The betrayal he uncovers drives him to devise a clever plan to reclaim his dignity, without violence, only truth. Will Mike expose her secret without losing himself? Find out in this gripping tale of love, deception, and justice. Mike Garcia's life ran like clockwork. Every morning at 6 a.m., the 38-year-old sales manager for an agricultural firm in Miami woke up, fed his Labrador, Chico, and brewed a strong cup of coffee. Sitting on his porch, he scrolled through news on his phone, the humid Florida air buzzing with the promise of another sunny day. His routine grounded him, a steady rhythm in a world that often felt chaotic. Mike wasn't one for drama. He valued reliability, a trait his clients appreciated and his wife, Elena, once adored. Elena, 35, was a yoga instructor with a magnetic energy that drew people in. Her classes in Coconut Grove were always packed, her voice guiding students through poses with a calm authority. For 10 years, their marriage had been a partnership of contrasts. Mike's quiet dependability balanced Elena's vibrant spontaneity. They'd built a life together, weekend hikes in the Everglades, late-night tacos at South Beach food trucks, and lazy evenings with Chico sprawled across their couch. But lately, cracks had started to show. Elena's texts grew curt, her evenings filled with retreats and energy workshops. Mike noticed her distracted glances, the way she'd linger on her phone, smiling at messages she didn't share. He wasn't the suspicious type, but doubt crept in like a slow tide. It started with her frequent mentions of Javier, her spiritual mentor, from a mindfulness retreat they'd attended 2 years ago in Key West. Mike had gone to humor Elena, rolling his eyes through the incense-heavy sessions. Javier, however, dove in his earnest talks about soul alignment, winning Elena's admiration. At first, Mike brushed it off. Elena was passionate about her work, and Javier seemed like just another guru. But the name kept surfacing. Javier said this about growth. Javier thinks we should try that meditation. The words piled up, each one a pebble in Mike's gut. The tipping point came on their 10th anniversary. Mike planned a quiet dinner at home, cooking Elena's favorite, grilled mahi-mahi with mango salsa, paired with a chilled rose. Chico dozed by the table as candles flickered, casting soft shadows. Mike expected a night of reconnection, a chance to bridge the growing distance. But as they sat down, Elena set her fork aside, her eyes fixed on him with a rehearsed calm. "Mike," she said, voice steady, "what if we invited Javier to spend a weekend with us at the Key Biscayne cottage?" The question hit like a rogue wave. Mike's grip tightened on his glass, but his face stayed calm, a skill honed from years of closing deals with tough clients. "Javier," he asked, keeping his tone neutral. "Why?" Elena leaned forward, her words careful. "He's helped me grow so much. I think his presence could open new doors for us, as a couple. It's about evolving together." Mike's mind raced. The cottage on Key Biscayne, a small retreat inherited from his father, was their sanctuary, a place for just the two of them. Inviting Javier felt like an invasion, a line crossed. He searched her eyes for the woman he'd married, but found only a strange conviction, as if she truly believed this was normal. "Interesting idea," he said, forcing a smile. "Let me think about it." That night, as Elena slept, Mike lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her proposal wasn't just a suggestion, it was a test. And he wasn't about to fail it. He'd always been methodical, a planner. If Elena was rewriting the rules of their marriage, he'd play the game, but on his terms. The next morning, over coffee, Mike scrolled through Elena's phone while she showered. He wasn't proud of it, but the unease in his chest demanded answers. There it was, a message from Javier, sent late the previous night. "Can't wait to see you soon. Let's make this weekend special." The words burned. Mike set the phone down, his jaw tight. He didn't need more proof, but he wanted it. This wasn't about paranoia, it was about clarity. By noon, he'd made a call to Ricardo, a private investigator recommended by a colleague. Ricardo was discreet, efficient, and promised results within days. "I just need the truth," Mike told him. "No confrontation, just facts." Ricardo agreed, already mapping out his approach. As Mike hung up, his phone buzzed with a text from Elena. "Javier's so excited about the cottage. He's bringing his meditation gear." The message wasn't meant for Mike. It was a misfire, meant for someone else. His heart sank, but his resolve hardened. Elena was moving forward with her plan, assuming he'd go along. Mike decided to counter her move. He called Sophia, a childhood friend and sharp-witted lawyer from Tampa. "I need you at the cottage this weekend," he said, keeping his voice light. No questions, just trust me. Sophia laughed, sensing trouble. This better not be a soap opera, Mike, she teased, but agreed to come. Mike smiled grimly. If Elena wanted to blur the lines, he'd draw them sharper. As the week unfolded, Elena buzzed with excitement, packing yoga mats and playlists for the cottage. Mike watched her, silent, his plan taking shape. He wasn't angry, not yet. He was focused. The truth was coming, and when it did, he'd be ready. Mike Garcia's plan was in motion. The week before the Key Biscayne cottage weekend sped by, each day sharpening his focus. He went through his sales meetings with the same steady precision, closing deals for irrigation systems while his mind churned over Elena's betrayal. Her misfired text to Javier, "Can't wait to make this weekend special," looped in his head, a confirmation of her intent. Mike didn't confront her. Instead, he channeled his energy into strategy, like a chess player eyeing the board. Elena, oblivious to his suspicions, was a whirlwind of preparation. She packed scented candles, a Bluetooth speaker for her curated playlists, and a stack of mindfulness journals. Her excitement was palpable, her chatter filled with plans for group meditation and energy cleansing at the cottage. Mike nodded along, his responses brief but convincing, masking the storm brewing inside. He'd agreed to Javier joining them, but only to buy time. His real move was already in play. Ricardo, the private investigator, was a step ahead. By midweek, he sent Mike a cryptic update. "Got something. Check your email." Mike waited until Elena left for her yoga studio, then opened the message on his laptop. The file contained photos, Elena and Javier at a tucked-away cafe in Coral Gables. Their hands brushed across the table, her smile too intimate for a mentor. Another shot showed them walking close, Javier's arm grazing her back. Mike's stomach twisted, but he didn't flinch. This was the clarity he needed. Ricardo's note promised more evidence by Friday, enough to make the truth undeniable. Mike's next call was to Sophia, his lawyer friend from Tampa. She'd agreed to join the weekend, sensing his need without prying. "You owe me a good meal for this," she quipped over the phone, her voice light but curious. Mike laughed, promising her favorite Cuban dish, ropa vieja with plantains. Sophia's role was simple: show up, act natural, and throw Elena off balance. Mike didn't want a scene, just enough disruption to expose Elena's facade. Sophia, with her sharp intuition and no-nonsense attitude, was perfect for the part. By Thursday, Elena's enthusiasm hit a new peak. She texted Mike a list of groceries for the weekend: kombucha, organic kale, quinoa, items she claimed Javier loved. Mike complied, stocking the cottage fridge, but added a twist of his own. He asked Sophia to arrive early, before Elena and Javier, to set the stage. "Be yourself," he told her. "That's more than enough." Sophia, catching the edge in his voice, didn't push for details. She knew Mike wasn't one for reckless moves. Friday morning, Ricardo sent another update. This time, it was a video clip from a hotel bar in South Beach. Elena and Javier sat in a corner booth, her hand resting on his knee, their laughter cutting through the ambient noise. The timestamp was from 2 nights ago, when Elena claimed she was at a late client session. Mike saved the file, his jaw tight. The evidence was mounting, but he held back, waiting for the right moment to act. As they drove to Key Biscayne, Elena was buoyant, humming to a playlist of ambient beats, her hand occasionally squeezing Mike's. "This weekend will be transformative," she said, eyes bright with anticipation. Mike glanced at her, his smile practiced. "Can't wait," he replied, his voice steady. Inside, he felt a cold resolve. The cottage, a haven of memories from his father, was about to become a battleground, not for shouting matches, but for truth. When they pulled up to the cottage, Sophia was already there, lounging on the deck with a glass of iced tea, her sunglasses perched on her head. Elena froze mid-step, her bag slipping slightly in her hand. "Sophia," she said, her tone sharp with confusion. Mike stepped out of the car, grabbing their cooler. "Surprise," he said casually. "Thought it'd be fun to have her join us for a bit. She's got to head back to Tampa tomorrow." Elena's smile flickered, but she recovered quickly, greeting Sophia with a stiff hug. "Didn't know you were coming," she said, her voice tight. Sophia grinned, unfazed. Mike's idea. Said he wanted to spice things up. The words landed like a subtle jab, and Mike caught the brief panic in Elena's eyes. Javier, due to arrive later, was suddenly an unspoken weight in the air. That evening, as they prepped dinner, Sophia kept the conversation light, recounting a funny case from her law firm. Mike played along, chopping vegetables with precision, while Elena's responses grew clipped. She checked her phone repeatedly, her fingers twitching. Mike noticed, but said nothing, letting the tension simmer. When Javier texted to say he was delayed in traffic, Elena's shoulders visibly tensed. Mike poured her a glass of rose, his gesture calm but calculated. "Relax," he said. "We've got all weekend." Later, as they sat on the deck, Sophia steered the talk to old memories, trips to the Keys, Mike's terrible karaoke face. Elena laughed, but it was hollow, her eyes darting to the driveway. Mike watched her every move, his plan unfolding silently. Ricardo's final report was due by morning, and with Sophia's presence already unsettling Elena, the stage was set for the truth to surface. The Key Biscayne cottage hummed with an uneasy energy as night settled over the water. Mike Garcia kept his composure, grilling shrimp skewers while Sophia filled the silence with stories from her Tampa law firm. Elena, usually the spark of any gathering, was subdued, her phone never far from her hand. Javier's absence hung like an unasked question. His text about traffic delays had come hours ago, and Elena's frequent glances at her screen betrayed her impatience. Mike noticed every twitch, every forced smile, but he played his part, attentive husband, relaxed host. Sophia, sharp as ever, sensed the undercurrent. She leaned into her role, keeping the conversation light but pointed, dropping hints about loyalty and trust in her anecdotes. "You know, in my line of work, secrets always come out," she said, slicing into a mango. Elena's fork paused midair, her eyes flickering to Mike, who busied himself with the grill. The air thickened, the sound of waves outside doing little to ease the tension. As they ate, Mike's phone buzzed with a new message from Ricardo, the private investigator. He excused himself to check it, stepping into the kitchen. The email contained a bombshell, a series of photos from the previous night, showing Elena and Javier at a boutique hotel in Miami's Design District. They were in the lobby, her arm looped through his, then later at the bar, their heads close, her hand on his wrist. A short video clip captured them stepping into an elevator, Javier's fingers brushing her lower back. The timestamp confirmed Elena's client session was a lie. Mike's chest tightened, but he saved the files and returned to the table, his face unreadable. Sophia, picking up on his brief absence, shifted the conversation. "So, Elena, what's this Javier guy like? Mike says he's some kind of spiritual guru." Her tone was casual, but the question landed like a dart. Elena coughed, reaching for her water. "He's insightful, helps people find balance," she said, her words clipped. Mike chimed in, his voice even. "Sounds like a great guy. Can't wait to meet him." Elena's grip on her glass tightened, her knuckles pale. The evening dragged on, and Javier's absence became conspicuous. Elena's phone buzzed again, and she stepped outside to take the call, her voice low but urgent. Mike exchanged a glance with Sophia, who raised an eyebrow. "She's rattled," Sophia whispered. Mike nodded, his mind racing. He didn't need Javier to show up, the evidence was enough. But Elena's discomfort was a bonus, a crack in her carefully curated facade. When Elena returned, she announced Javier wouldn't make it until morning, citing a last-minute workshop issue. Her excuse was flimsy, and Mike let it slide, offering a sympathetic nod. "No worries," he said. "More shrimp for us." Sophia smirked, playing along, but the atmosphere grew heavier. Elena barely touched her food, her attention split between her phone and the conversation she could no longer fully engage in. As the night wound down, Sophia suggested a walk along the shore. Mike agreed, but Elena declined, claiming a headache. Left alone, she paced the deck, her phone glowing as she typed furiously. Mike and Sophia strolled toward the water, the moon casting a silver path across the waves. "She's hiding something," Sophia said quietly. "You sure you're okay?" Mike exhaled, his voice steady. "I'm not okay, but I'm in control. Tomorrow, she'll see I'm not the one who's been playing games." Back at the cottage, Elena was already in bed when Mike returned. He didn't sleep. Instead, he sat at the small kitchen table, reviewing Ricardo's files. The investigator had dug deeper, uncovering a pattern. Elena and Javier had met multiple times over the past month, always under the guise of spiritual retreats. Receipts from a wine bar, a parking stub from a hotel garage, and a text exchange Ricardo had accessed through a source painted a clear picture. Elena wasn't just drifting, she was building a separate life. By dawn, Mike was up, brewing coffee as Sophia packed her bag. She'd agreed to leave early, citing a work emergency in Tampa, but her real purpose was done. Her presence had unsettled Elena, and Mike needed her gone before the next phase. As Sophia hugged him goodbye, she whispered, Whatever you're planning, keep it clean. Mike nodded. It's not about revenge. It's about truth. Elena emerged from the bedroom, her eyes tired but guarded. She seemed relieved to see Sophia leaving, her politeness thinly veiling her discomfort. Safe trip, she said, her voice flat. Sophia waved, her smile sharp. Take care, Elena. Let's do this again sometime. The jab was subtle, but Elena's jaw tightened. As Sophia's car pulled away, Mike's phone buzzed again. Ricardo's final report was in. A photo of Javier entering the same hotel last night, after his traffic delay. He wasn't alone. A second woman, not Elena, was with him, their hands linked. Mike's lips pressed into a thin line. Javier wasn't just betraying him. He was playing Elena, too. The discovery shifted something in Mike. This wasn't just about his marriage anymore. It was about exposing a web of deception. Elena, sensing a shift, suggested a morning yoga session to reset the energy. Mike agreed, watching her roll out a mat on the deck. Her movements were fluid, but her focus was off, her gaze darting to her phone every few minutes. Mike kept his distance, his mind on the next step. He texted Ricardo to keep tracking Javier, suspecting the mentor might show up after all. Then he called Carmen, Elena's mother, inviting her for dinner the following evening back in Miami. Just a family night, he said, his tone warm. Carmen, always fond of Mike, agreed eagerly. As the morning unfolded, Elena's phone buzzed with a new message. She read it, her shoulders stiffening, then quickly locked the screen. Mike caught the moment but said nothing, offering her a coffee instead. The game was on, and he was one move ahead. The sun climbed higher over Key Biscayne, casting sharp shadows across the cottage deck. Mike Garcia sipped his coffee, watching Elena stretch through her yoga routine, her movements mechanical, her attention split between poses and her phone. She'd been texting since dawn, her fingers quick, her expression tense. Mike kept his distance, his own phone silent, but heavy with Ricardo's latest evidence. The investigators' photos and texts confirmed Javier's duplicity, not just with Elena, but with another woman, a detail Mike held close, waiting for the right moment. Elena announced she needed to cut the weekend short. I'm not feeling right, she said, packing her yoga mat. Too much stress. I should head back to Miami. Mike didn't argue. He nodded, loading her bag into the car. I'll drive, he offered, his voice calm, masking the calculations running through his mind. The hour-long ride was quiet. Elena staring out the window, her phone clutched tight. Mike focused on the road, mentally rehearsing his next steps. He'd invited Carmen, Elena's mother, for dinner that evening, a move designed to bring the truth into sharp focus. Back in their Miami home, Elena retreated to the bedroom, claiming a need to rest. Mike used the time to prepare. He printed Ricardo's photos, Elena and Javier at the hotel, their closeness unmistakable, and a separate shot of Javier with the other woman, timestamped the previous night. He tucked the images strategically, one inside Elena's favorite yoga journal, another under a stack of coasters on the dining table, and a third slipped into a cookbook Carmen often browsed. Mike wasn't aiming for cruelty, only impact. The truth needed to land where it couldn't be ignored. Ricardo sent a final update. Javier had checked into a downtown Miami hotel that morning, alone. A text exchange, intercepted through a contact, revealed Javier dismissing Elena as just a fling to his new companion. Mike saved the screenshot, its words a cold validation. He forwarded it to Sophia, who replied instantly. This guy's a snake. You sure about tonight? Mike texted back. It's not about him. It's about her choices. Sophia's response was a thumbs-up emoji, her trust in Mike unwavering. Carmen arrived at 7, her warmth filling the house as she hugged Mike and set a homemade flan on the counter. Elena emerged, startled to see her mother. Didn't know you were coming, she said, her voice tight. Mike smiled. Thought it'd be nice to have family over. Special night. Carmen, unaware of the undercurrent, chatted about her garden club, her energy a stark contrast to Elena's unease. Dinner began smoothly, Mike serving grilled snapper with citrus glaze. Carmen reached for a coaster, pausing as a photo slid out. Elena and Javier, hands linked in a hotel lobby. Her fingers froze, her eyes scanning the image. Another photo fell from the cookbook as she passed it to Mike. What's this? She asked, her voice low. Elena's face drained of color as she grabbed for the picture, but Carmen held it firm, finding the third in her journal. The silence was deafening, broken only by Chico's soft whine from the corner. I can explain, Elena stammered, but Carmen's gaze hardened. Mike stood, his tone measured. You don't need to see more, Carmen. I'll get you a ride home. I'm sorry you had to see this, but you deserve to know. Carmen nodded, her lips tight, and gathered her purse. She looked at Elena, disappointment etched in her silence, then walked out. Elena sat frozen, her breath uneven, as Mike cleared the table, his movements deliberate. Alone now, Elena's voice broke. You set this up to humiliate me. Mike turned, his eyes steady. You humiliated yourself. I just made sure the truth wasn't buried. He slid the screenshot of Javier's text across the table. Elena read it, her hands trembling as Javier's words sank in, her spiritual connection reduced to a casual betrayal. She stood, pacing, then stopped. I thought he cared, she whispered, more to herself than Mike. Mike handed her a folder. This is the divorce filing. My lawyer drafted it today. The house and cottage stay with me. Inheritance clauses are clear. You knew that. Elena opened the folder, her eyes scanning the terms, then closed it, her shoulders slumping. I messed up, she said, her voice barely audible. Mike didn't soften. You chose this. Now own it. She nodded, the weight of her actions settling in. Mike stepped back, giving her space to process. The night ended with Elena retreating to the guest room, the folder still in her hand. Mike sat with Chico, the quiet of the house no longer oppressive but resolute. The truth was out, and the final act was near. The Miami morning broke with a quiet clarity, the kind that follows a storm. Mike Garcia woke early, feeding Chico and brewing coffee as the house sat still, its usual warmth replaced by a stark emptiness. Elena had spent the night in the guest room, the divorce papers untouched on the nightstand. Her admission of betrayal, whispered, reluctant, had shifted the air between them, stripping away pretense. Mike felt no triumph, only a steady resolve to move forward. Elena emerged at noon, her movements slow, deliberate. She packed a suitcase, avoiding Mike's gaze. I'll stay at a friend's place, she said, her voice flat. Mike nodded, handing her a list of her belongings, yoga mats, books, kitchenware, already boxed for pickup. Take what you need, he said. The lawyer will handle the rest. Elena hesitated, then nodded, loading her car in silence. Chico watched from the porch, his tail still, as if sensing the fracture. When Elena drove away, Mike exhaled, the weight of 10 years lifting, replaced by a strange freedom. The divorce proceedings were swift. Mike's lawyer, bolstered by inheritance clauses, ensured the house and Key Biscayne cottage remained his. Elena didn't contest it, her fight drained by the reality of her choices. She rented a small apartment in Wynwood, its bare walls a far cry from the life she'd known. Her yoga studio saw fewer clients, whispers of her personal turmoil eroding the image of serenity she'd cultivated. Carmen, her mother, kept contact minimal, their conversations clipped, marked by an unspoken disappointment that cut deeper than words. Mike, meanwhile, found purpose in the aftermath. He started speaking at community centers, sharing his story with men navigating betrayal. His talks weren't about bitterness but about resilience, recognizing deception, choosing dignity, rebuilding trust. The sessions grew popular, his calm authority resonating with those grappling with their own fractures. Chico, ever loyal, sat by his side during evening sessions, a quiet anchor. Sophia, back in Tampa, stayed in touch, her calls a mix of humor and support. Over time, their friendship deepened, rooted in shared history rather than rebound. One evening, over Cuban coffee at a South Beach cafe, she nudged him. You're different now, she said. Stronger. Mike smiled, stirring his espresso. Had to lose something to find that out. Their bond grew naturally, unhurried, a contrast to the chaos of his past. Elena's world, by contrast, unraveled further. She reached out to Javier, hoping for solace, but found only silence. His social media went dark, his number disconnected. A mutual acquaintance revealed he'd moved to Orlando, chasing a new spiritual venture with another partner. To Javier, Elena had been a fleeting distraction, discarded when complications arose. The realization hit her hard, her confidence shaken, her client base dwindling as her energy faltered. Months later, Elena tried to challenge the divorce settlement, claiming a share of the cottage. Her lawyer quickly dismissed the idea. The inheritance documents were ironclad. She collected her remaining belongings from the house, a few paintings and journals, under Mike's watchful eye. Chico growled softly, retreating to Mike's side, a final rejection that stung Elena more than she admitted. She left without a word, the door closing softly behind her. The town's chatter faded over time, the scandal reduced to a footnote. Mike's reputation, however, grew. Colleagues admired his poise, clients respected his focus, and his talks drew larger crowds. He wasn't a hero, just a man who'd faced betrayal and chosen clarity over chaos. The cottage, once a place of pain, became his refuge again, where he and Chico spent weekends fishing, the water a reminder of life's steady rhythm. A year later, Mike was at a cafe in Coconut Grove, reviewing notes for a talk, when Elena walked in. She froze, spotting him, then approached, her steps hesitant. "I didn't expect to see you," she said, her voice soft. Mike set his tablet down, meeting her gaze. "Same." She shifted, searching for words. "I'm sorry, Mike. For everything." He leaned back, considering her. "I forgave you a while ago," he said. "But that doesn't mean you get to stay in my life." Elena nodded, her eyes dropping. She turned to leave, then paused. "You're doing well. I see it online." Mike shrugged. "I'm doing me. That's enough." She walked away, her figure fading into the crowd. Mike returned to his notes, the moment a quiet closure. Life settled into a new normal. Mike's mornings with Chico, his talks, his growing friendship with Sophia, they weren't a replacement for what he'd lost but a foundation for what he'd gained. Elena, meanwhile, rebuilt in fragments, her career a shadow of its former glow, her mother's approval a distant hope. Javier's absence left her to face the consequences alone, a lesson in accountability she couldn't outrun. Mike stood on his porch one evening, Chico at his feet, the Miami skyline glowing in the distance. He breathed deeply, the air warm, the silence honest. He'd lost a marriage but found something stronger, himself.